So we have Bruce live in the locker room in Tallahassee celebrating on the field with the Florida State. And I don't know why, but like we were able to run the ball so well in the first half, especially to the left side, and then all of a sudden we started to abandon it. And like I said, there is some inconsistent.
How are they going to approach this game? How are they going to beat this Florida State team?
Well, we're going to break you guys.
Okay, that's it. The show's over.
In the story, we're going to break you guys. Look, and I'm joking, but it's true.
Lord, the climb continues, KB. Oh my God!
I am sweating.
Look at my heart. Look.
You know what? Yeah, I have so much to say.
All right, and welcome back to Seminole Sideline 365. We are here. What is going on, Jalen? And welcome back, everyone who is joining us after the game here. Obviously, the game has ended 63-3. Georgia dominates Florida State, as I think we all predicted. Maybe not to that level, but we will discuss. But yeah, it was like most of us probably predicted. And if you didn't see this coming, then you need to go see a doctor because if you thought Florida State had any chance of winning this game, you got your reality check. But we'll discuss what we saw today. But thank you for being with us. Troll alert: if you come in here and troll me, I will ban you immediately. But if you do have comments, if you're a Georgia fan and you want to say some stuff, I don't mind that. But if you're just going to troll somewhere else. But if you have comments, questions, thoughts, please bring them, and we'll put them up. I don't think, right off the bat, like you said, the scoreboard looks bad. Put up over close to 700 yards of offense on you. Here's obviously the excuses. You're missing, 12 plus starters on the team. They have basically their whole starting offense out there. Obviously, Carson Beck and McConkley and great running backs for defense. So, there's going to be a lot, there's a lot of things you can say. This is not best on best. We all know that, right? And you saw that especially on your defensive side of the ball, where you couldn't tackle anybody. You couldn't get any push. You got dominated on the trenches. And that's where we talk about is where you lose games and where Florida State needs to get better. They need to get better depth. And you saw that depth. There is no depth, right? There is not a lot of quality depth with the guys you've lost. The guys you've lost, Jared Verse or Braden Fisk, who was a surprise, out today, which once again, I don't mind that. Guy's been playing through injuries all year. So I don't mind him not playing today, but he was on the sideline. You lose, Farmer as well, who was out. So, you lost at minimum three of your top guys. Did see Malcolm Ray out there, but you were down to your true backups who were called to start today, and they could not get it done and not even close. I think we called Patrick Payne's number one time. He made a couple plays. He had the strip sack, which was a great play by him. And that was about it for him. And I don't think he made an impact after that. And that's why I said this team is in desperate need for development on defensive line because they're not getting dominant defensive line recruits out of high school. Let's just face it. They're not signing those guys out of high school. And the portal's where they need to get them right away because you saw – what we saw today is a lot of the guys are going to be asked to get playing time next year who are going to be competing for starting time next year. And I don't care about this result. I don't care about Georgia beating us. We're all going to get trolled with it, but it doesn't matter because this wasn't our best. This wasn't best on best, right? So don't care about that. What I do care about and what, we may go back and forth on is what did Florida State show us about who can play for us next year? Because many of the players we saw are going to be competing for starting playing time next year. Kazai Holmes, Deuce Spann, Ja'Kai Douglas, Hakeem Williams, Kentron Porter, Daryl Jackson, Malcolm Ray, all these guys, Brian Turner, all these guys that we saw today against an elite team in Georgia What did they show us anything that shows us that they can go out there, compete against Clemson and compete in a playoff next year if we get to a playoff next year, right? So that's what I wanted to see, and that's what we can discuss. I didn't see a lot of positives in this game. I was hoping I would. I didn't see a lot of positives. I saw a couple of balls that Brock Glenn, I think, when he had a pocket, which wasn't a lot, but when he had some time in the pocket, he placed some great balls deep, and he wasn't afraid. He seemed a lot more composed, which I was very happy to see.
Basically, that was our starting offensive line, right?
Yeah, yes. Well, a couple of guys were banged up. A couple of guys went down early. But for the most part, you had, to your point, you had Robert Scott out there, Casey Roddick, Maurice Smith, Dimitri, and Keandre rotating, Jeremiah Byers, who, because Bless Harris is out. So you had a couple of guys went down here and there, so that didn't help the situation. Now, I don't think the offensive line was the reason we lost. The reason we couldn't put up points. Did they do amazing? No, they didn't. Did they hold up at points? Yes, they did. But did they get dominated at points? They did as well. And once again, we've talked about this. We're not seeing us. We haven't seen this overwhelming development of the offensive line the past 3 years, and we're not signing 5-star recruits out of high school either. So what you see is what you get. This is what's coming back next year too. And that's to say, should we be concerned about going into the ACC? Now, the good thing is we're not going to have to face Georgia 12 times next year to win games. But you may have to if you get to the playoffs. So I've talked a lot. Let me know what are your initial thoughts. Post game here.
Well, I have a lot of thoughts. Okay, I have a lot of thoughts. I knew for us this would be a venting as well. This is a sour taste. Yeah. I mean, because I'm a guy who was advocating for opting out because this isn't the bowl games that I've used to seeing during my years on this earth. You have to understand that. I've seen some excellent bowl games before this playoffs stuff ever started with committees and so on. You had a couple of polls. You had the coaches poll, you had the AP poll, and at the end, they voted their writers of who the best teams were based on some of these big bowl games, which everybody played in unless you were injured and you couldn't play because you never knew who was going to be number one at the end. That was the deal. So, first of all, this whole bowl game stuff with all the opt-outs and all these bowl games really has changed the scenario. Of course I was disappointed, KB, as you were, with this score. I was hoping for it to be competitive. I didn't think we were going to win this game. I really didn't think we were going to win this game. I'm not going to say something where fans say, oh, these guys are just negative or whatever. No, it's reality. We had no chance to win this football game, really, okay? There's so many thoughts in my head right now, and I'm not here. I saw people tweeting about the refs. Are you shitting me? Yeah. What reality do these people live in? I'm not 25 years old anymore. I know reality. I sat there, watched this game. I broke down the first half possessions. And, it's 35-3 at halftime. I mean, we got them off the field one time, the first possession they had the ball. The rest, they scored touchdowns on. Our best player had to put the most on tape was Alex Mastromanos, the punter. We had one field goal out of 8 possessions in the first half. Now, should anybody be surprised by this? Did anybody buy a ticket to this game thinking there would be this huge upset being sold by ESPN and all this revenge stuff? Come on, people. You need to wake up. So for me, as you said, I thought you did a great summary up front, KB. This was an excellent way for Coach Norvell and staff to evaluate your football team in terms of what's coming in for 2024 against an elite football team.
Yeah.
Okay. Now,
Yeah.
some people may not like what we're saying out there.
I
We live in reality. Okay, we're not living in this reality of Mike's some kind of has a magic wand. You don't think he's disappointed? Did you see the looks on his face?
Yeah.
He's a very positive guy. I get it. He had limited tools. He had a very limited toolbox. But you know who also, as I'm spewing out here, disorganized, is the announcers. Oh my God!
I muted it. I muted it.
I couldn't mute it because I wanted to hear the shit that they would lay out. I'm so tired of him. They had a standard word board they were using. There's no doubt. Their standard. Georgia is playing to their standard. Even on the Brock Bowers, they said, oh no, well, he didn't opt out. He was injured. And so he couldn't really play. He's never been 100%. Bullshit. If this would have been the championship game, you don't think he would have played?
Yeah.
Bullshit. So Joe Testatori is an asshole, okay? He's an asshole, and his buddy, Jesse Palmer, the Gator, he's the same way. They're all spinning the script, and this is going to be tough to take. But for any of our fans on X or Twitter, it's going to be tough with all the trolls out there, saying what this team was. Let me say this. This was not. And then so late into the game when everybody's already turned it off, ESPN goes, well, let us tell you how great Florida State was and how they battled all season and how they got left out and everybody was sad. They wait to the end. They were showing Georgia's schedule next season. Those assholes. This Joe Testatori, I'd like to punch him right in the mouth if I saw the guy on the street. He's such an ass.
Let's relax.
But
all right. Let's relax.
But you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah. We're not threatening physical violence.
No, I'm not. I don't advocate that. I'm not advocating that. But that was the feeling I had inside of me because they talk such a narrative, such as, oh, McConkey and Bowers, they're injured. Bowers couldn't play, but McConkey, he stepped it up. He's over there laughing on the sidelines. He didn't look that hurt to me. Okay, he didn't look that hurt to me. Did Mims play? Wait a minute. Did Mims play? I don't even think Mims played. But they didn't say anything about that. But they didn't say anything about that.
I don't know why people are surprised about this narrative that ESPN puts out there. And that's why you should.
I'm not surprised, but I'm just saying that was another clear example of them being so tight with the SEC. So tight because all they talked about is the SEC.
Yeah. It's not a hidden agenda. It's not a hidden agenda. It's not. Nobody. It's not. It's not hidden.
Yeah, it's not a hidden agenda. But the overall score, I was disappointed in. The 63 points they put up, and at the end, of course, they say, "Well, this is history for the Orange Bowl, the highest score ever." It means nothing, and I think that's what gets me about the media now. And these guys who are ESPN is they're not saying it's really meaningless in the days of the bowl games. Don't compare these to the Orange Bowls of the past. Don't compare these to the Orange Bowls where Florida State won national champions. This is bullshit.
Yeah. And it's different.
I feel better.
The opt-outs are different for different reasons. Florida State, their players were told you're not getting in to the playoff for unknown reasons. And, why did so many players opt out? Well, one of the main reasons is because the NCAA or the college playoff committee told them that, you don't deserve it. So we're going to throw you into the Consolation Bowl. And so if I was a player, just on that alone, I would say, okay, yeah, these games are meaningless. Why would I ever want to play into this, especially if I have the ability to go to the next level? Versus Georgia, who earned their loss to Alabama and didn't make it in because of that reason. So there's different things on why people opt out and why more people may have opted out. So you could discuss that all night on culture and BS like that. And I don't think
that's the other thing. I'm so tired of him saying the culture. That Joe Testatori makes me ill.
Yeah.
Totally ill.
So once again, it's two different scenarios. They can't compare two different locker rooms, because Florida State had their opportunity ripped from them. And I don't know why, if I was a kid who had that happen to me, why I even care to play or be motivated to play in a game that means nothing versus a team that earned their loss and, was happy to be given this bowl game because, that's what they deserve. Now looking over the game in general, like I said, I'm not happy with the performance. I thought our backups could play better. You get recruited to Florida State, you should be held to a standard performance against whoever you put out there and whoever's your opponent on the other side. Especially because, like I said, many of these players are expected to play next year. We have not lit up on the transfer portal so far. And if you watch the games today, I think there needs to be a lot of addressing of player positions, especially a linebacker position. Omar Graham is not ready to play starting linebacker at Florida State.
Neither is Blake Nicholson.
Neither of those guys are, in my opinion, unless they get bigger, unless they learn.
But that's not a surprise, KB.
No, well, they're going to be sophomores next year, and Blake Nicholson's a 5-star who should be ready to play.
He's not physically ready to play.
Well, whose fault is that then? Is that the coaching staff's?
That's the coaching staff. That's the coaching staff.
Let me finish But once again, it's a product of also horrible or a bad high school recruiting over the past couple of years, right? Omar Graham's a 3-star guy who's being now asked to start as a redshirt freshman. That is not fair to him. He is going to take 3 years probably to develop into what he could be based on what you saw in him. Daniel Lyons, 3-star guy, redshirt freshman, asked to start on the line tonight and get.
And he played his ass off. They
all
played his ass off.
And I finished my thought though. I'm not saying nobody didn't play their ass off, but it's a lot of that. You had guys out there tonight that weren't elite backups or weren't 5-4, 5-star guys who were being brought in, and that's why when Georgia had their best players out in the field against these guys, you were no match at all. But second off, when they started bringing in their backups, you still couldn't stop them because we have done so poorly the last couple of years outside of this last year, which got better. But 2023, 2022, 21, 20, you signed not as quality of talent as you could, especially in the positions that matter. And that's where you see the quality of depth chart that Georgia's done it. They built the program, and that's why I'm saying I think we will get there. But that is the biggest thing that stood out to me is that the quality of talent across the entire depth charts. Because when Georgia started bringing backups in, you saw how fast they were. You saw how big they were. And that's where Florida State needs to be. And that's why I think at some point we need to start addressing changes on this coaching staff in terms of who can recruit the best and close recruits in the high school level. Because, Georgia is the king of high school recruiting and they get who they want. And you saw that today because most of those guys we went up against the starters and backups, those are all high school guys. They had one transfer who was that receiver they had out there. But most of those other guys were right out of high school developed and put on that field today. And I think if Florida State really wants to be great, they need to, one, have that high school pipeline developed, fully built out. And I think it's getting there. But I think there's certain coaches on the staff, especially around the trenches, who are not doing what they need to be doing. And that's where we got dominated tonight. Defensive line got dominated tonight with your guys out, but there is not enough quality backups to be able to play against a high caliber team. We're lucky this year that we didn't have more injuries on the defense. Can you imagine if you had lost to Jared Verse or Braden Fisk this year? These guys would have had to get more reps. You may have seen some more what we saw today. So that's the thing that stuck out to me. That's not to say that guys like Brian Turner, like Omar Graham, and guys like that can't play at Florida State. But some of these guys are going to need more development time, and they're not ready to play as freshmen. And the staff needs to get better at recruiting on the trail and signing some more of these elite players, just like they did with Charles Lester and Howard on the defensive backfield, like Surtan did. They need to get more elite recruiters like that so they can up the talent level across this depth chart in the positions that really matter in the trenches.
Well, I think this is clearly, I think you, again, gave a good summary. I don't always agree with everything you say, but I think you gave a good summary there. The trenches were totally dominated. I don't think our offensive line did much to help Brock Glenn. I think it's a great development game for your second quarterback, Brock Glenn, at this point. I mean, he's been in 2 games. He's tried to manage his best in those 2 games, but he's out there taking snaps. That counts for something. He was more confident. He's going to be more confident going into spring practice. Okay, yeah. He is not going to compete for the number 1 job. There's no way he's going to be the number 1 guy. Luke Kromhoik, he's not going to be the number 1 guy. We're going to bring in a veteran quarterback. Okay, now we're not going to get into all who's it going to be, but Mike Norvell, I guarantee you, if he doesn't have a veteran quarterback on this roster in the next 7 days, it's going to lift some eyebrows. Okay,
I don't even think that's your biggest issue right now. They got to go get defensive line, and they got to get some linebackers.
I think it's the biggest issue because if you're not scoring any points, you don't have a chance.
If you can't stop people from scoring too, you have.
I got you. But you have to have a veteran quarterback. There's no way we go into 2024 with Brock Glenn, with all the hugs and kisses that go with a lot of our fan base, and Mike's got our back. That's not going to cut it. You got to bring in a Cam Ward, a DJU, or someone else that's out there that has productivity and has the game experience. That's number 1. Number 2 is exactly what you said. You've got to plug and play defense and offensive lines. Defense and offensive line, mainly the defensive line. We took heavy losses there with departures, heavy losses there. And so you're exactly right. Now, we didn't run the ball at all. I mean, that was basically kind of our offensive line for the year. We couldn't run the ball. What was the rushing stats?
I mean, you had 63 rushing yards.
I thought Keziah Holmes, I thought I'd get a little bit more out of Keziah. He looked hesitant to hit the holes. He looked slow. He looks big, but he looks slow running the football. I don't think Sam Singleton even played.
He only had 2 attempts. And once again, that's what I'm saying is that you didn't get to see some of these younger guys that you hope, who are developing and stuff like that, and Keziah's the guy next year, right? You didn't get to see if can he carry the load next year, or is Sam Singleton going to be the guy? So it was hard because this game was so out of hand, so, felt like so early in the second that you didn't get to see a lot. There wasn't a lot of guys that stood out. The receivers didn't stand out. No one on that end really.
Well, a lot of balls were overthrown or behind. The timing wasn't there, which is not surprising. Did any of our backup offensive linemen get in? I didn't.
Not till the 4th, I don't think.
I didn't really see Armella in there. I saw him just standing clean jersey on the sideline. Now he's the guy everybody expects to take over a job.
Yeah. But yeah, so Kentron made a big play on the sideline on one of those catches that once again couldn't score in the red zone when you got there twice. Kentron made a play, but once again, these are your receivers next year: Darian, Kentron, Ja'Kai, Hakeem.
Williamson.
These are your players next year. Destin Hill, Kyle Morlock, 0 catches for him and Hill. Once again,
I don't know how Kyle Morlock makes no catches. I don't know how that's.
We don't throw the ball underneath, so
I don't understand how that's even possible.
But yeah, so once again, it's hard to draw things out of this. But I think it does tell you where you need to fill the holes immediately. Like you said, defensive line. We were bringing in that kid from Purdue on the edge. I think you do need to get another probably interior lineman, defensive lineman. I think you probably need to find another receiver, an experienced receiver. You got to get a 1 or 2 linebackers. You got to get a quarterback. There's a lot of holes that you need to fill in this team because you're not getting freshmen ready from high school. Now, you will, on the defensive backside, probably get those guys like you talked about. We got Lester and we got Jamari Howard. You signed one of your best class that you have at Florida State thus far, which is where you need to be, because that's how Georgia reloads every single season, right? That's how we start getting to Georgia's level in terms of building quality depth. Is you get a top 9, top 8 class in high school every year. But if you aren't getting that, then Mike Norvell needs to start making changes to the staff, because you didn't close the way you wanted to close this year, and that's becoming a trend. And something Bud Elliott said on the Nolecast the other day is Mike Norvell may not know what an elite recruiting operation looks like because he hasn't been in one. He went from Memphis to Florida State, and he's never had to build out an elite high school recruiting. He's usually, made great players out of, made gems out of under-recruited players or 3-stars, stuff like that. But at Florida State, when you're going against the best teams or you're fighting in the playoffs, you need to get the best of the best because that's how you win games. You can't hope that a 3-star becomes a 5-star because you developed them into one, right? And so I really do think that Mike Norvell needs to do some soul searching on the staff and say, can these guys, whether it's Odell, whether it's Dugans, whether it's I think everybody top to bottom say, are they doing their job, not just developing kids, but then recruiting kids and finishing those commitments? Because that is how this team is going to get better. It's not just by jumping in the portal and getting 8 guys every single season. That's good in the short term. But when you want to be a long-term program that builds success like Georgia does, and what we saw today, when you bring in all your freshmen in the third or fourth quarter and still keep scoring, that's what I want this team to become. And I think that's where you balance the high school recruiting with the portal game. You don't have to rely on portal as much.
Yeah, I think you're right. I'm not sure you're totally right about that Mike Norvell doesn't know how to put together an elite team. I think every football coach,
elite recruiting staff,
elite recruiting staff, but I think he should. How much rocket science is involved in that? That a guy has a track record of bringing guys in. That you have to balance out that staff so the guy may be a better recruiter than he is a coach, or a guy's a better coach than he is a recruiter. You have to balance that mixture out. I get it. I think there's more factors involved than ever now. We have no clue and we're not here to make excuses. We're not here to make excuses.
No excuses
this result is not surprising. The score is a little surprising, but the result is not surprising here. I think Florida State got out of this without any major injuries that I saw. I saw Robert Scott go down late in the first half. I saw him not. I don't think he played much afterwards. Maybe
2 linemen went down. Azaria
Thomas went down.
I wouldn't say you lost nothing. But.
So I was hoping. My goal was to get out of this game injury free. That was very important to me. I thought when the game was out of hand already, it was like 35-3. Pat Payton was still in there. Pat Payton still needs development, no doubt about it. But why is he still in the damn game? What if he breaks his leg? Then what do we have? We have a worse situation on the defensive line. There was no reason. The game was out of hand. The game was over at halftime. It was over. Okay, so it's a matter of who's going to get the work. It's like the spring game, the scrimmage. That's what we said this would be, and that's what it was. And Florida State fans are going to have to shut off the social media. They're going to have to shut off their TVs because everybody who says, see, the committee was right, they have no idea what they're talking about. I had a couple guys tweet me, friends of mine, they're going, oh, you guys need to find a better quarterback. And that's all he said. He didn't even know who this guy was. I'm so sick of people telling me stuff like they know they're experts because they flipped on the game and they see a score. It's ridiculous. These people don't know anything. The rest are trolls. If you interact with trolls socially or on social media, you're wasting your time. They're ignorant football fans and have no clue what the hell's going on. Now, that's it. That's really what this is about. This is about bigger things. It's about money. It's about TV, everything like this. And that's what it's about. So my number one thing for recruiting, you're talking about better recruiting, is this Florida State football team needs to get out of this ACC, period.
I mean,
No. But you're talking about recruiting. If we don't get out, don't you think that hurts recruiting?
Well, yeah, but we talked about.
But don't wave it off, though. You can't just wave it off.
No, but I think that's a given. I mean, that's
okay. Well, let's say that's what they need to do.
Yeah.
They need to continue.
No one's going to argue with you.
Okay, they need to continue to pursue the exit of the ACC, which will help recruiting once they get into one of the mega conferences. Because if you don't get into the mega conferences, your recruiting is done. There won't be any more recruiting. You'll be a stepping stone program like Western Michigan when Braden Fisk came to us. That's what you'll be. You'll be developing players for the next for the mega conferences, and that could happen. So we can't rule that shit out. All right, and there's no more hugging and kissing certain guys because this is a good football team, but the football team you saw tonight was not the 2013 regular season team that won the ACC championship. They weren't there.
Yep. The one of the positives I saw is that, like I said before, is I think Brock Glenn can be developed into something. He was once again put in a really tough spot, but some more weeks. I think he has the ability to do some, in a year or two, compete for a starting role with Luke. Once we get in this transitionary quarterback, whoever that is going to be, because you saw a couple of plays in the early first and the second quarter when they were allowing him to throw the ball, where he made plays like this, which is a positive sign. And I think you let him, if he sticks around, he becomes a sophomore, a true sophomore, or a junior on this team. He had some accuracy on his throws. He had one on the sideline that could drop. Once again, we saw the plagues of drops on this team again prop up. So guys have to make plays, but I was glad to see him step up in the pocket, not be afraid to pump the ball down the field. Once again, it wasn't like he threw for 300 yards and a couple of touchdowns, but it was a positive to see him look to go deep, attack a very strong defensive backfield, and some of those balls he put right on the money. And that's what you want to see of a kid that you think has potential. So that was one of the few positives I saw today. And that's the thing I kind of tweeted out, is that I think this guy really, I see what Mike Norvell sees in this kid and what he could become.
I agree with you. Again, I'm focused. I was focused on more of the players like you were. We both talked about that before the game. I thought Brock Glenn, this guy can throw the football. Yeah. Did you see those spiral? I mean, he stood in the pocket. Yeah. He was not afraid to stand in the pocket. He doesn't have happy feet. No. The kid can run the ball. He's a bigger kid, and he can wing it downfield. Yeah. He can wing that ball downfield. And here's a kid that hasn't had that many reps the whole season, okay, in practice or in games. I think he got a valuable experience today. And if I'm Coach Norvell, I go to him personally, and I go to in the team setting, and I say, we handed him, he did the best he could, as every player did, I think. I didn't see anybody quit. Okay? I don't feel they quit, but there's a lot of kids who are playing that don't have the reps. Okay, Brock Glenn stands out in my mind. He is the number 2 quarterback on this football team. He's not number 1 in my mind, but he is now on the roster. He's the number 1 quarterback for this football team until something changes. And he is developing. I like what I see. He's got a big arm. He's got a damn good enough arm to take you to the playoffs. I'll tell you that.
Yeah. So excited about the couple of plays he made. I was hoping we'd see a little bit more on the offensive side. Because we saw Hakeem Williams, Justin Hill, those guys got a lot of playing time tonight on the field, or I should say some. It wasn't like we had huge sustained drives, so it wasn't like they were a lot on the field. But this is the most playing time they got, because as a reminder, this is who was out today. All your stats leaders are out today, except for Morlock and Jakai, essentially on the offensive side. But I do want to give kudos to guys like Kalen DeLoach for being out there and doing what, he was literally the only starting linebacker with any playing time really out there trying to shore up the middle of the field. And his job only gets harder when basically your entire defensive line's out. And that's, we can keep saying over and over. If you don't have a great defensive line, it makes the linebackers' jobs harder. And if your linebackers, can't make a tackle, then it's a chain of reaction, right? So kudos to him for playing deep into the fourth. You could tell he's done so much for this team, and he's seen it through the worst days. And we're not going to remember him for today. We'll remember him, like you said, for the ACC championship and what he did for this team, everything he's brought, everything he did to help bring this program back. So kudos to him and all he's done as being a senior. And I hope he gets a chance at the next level. But thank you for sticking around, Kalen, for that and all the other seniors who were able to play today.
Yeah, but again, I was an advocate for opting out of this. If the person, let me say this, if the person had it was a risky business decision because this is purely ambition. Please let me finish. You keep cutting me off when I say this.
Why you have to ask for this? I
But
was just saying something nice about him. I'm just saying something nice about the kid, and you have to ask for this.
I'm not talking about Deloach. I'm not talking about Deloach. I praise what you say about Deloach. I'm not saying that. I'm saying about kids who opted out. Okay, I fully support them opting out, and I will in the future. Because if you're not in the playoffs, if you're going to be a draft choice and you're playing in the Kohler toilet bowl, it's not worth it unless you need to put additional stuff on tape. Every decision a player makes now, who they sign with, what NIL money they get, whether they play in a certain game or not, it's a business decision, and I'm not going to blame the kids for it. I used to think, when they first started opting out, I don't even know when that began, a few years ago. It hasn't been that long, KB. And they started opting out. I said, well, that's bad. I don't like that. But not anymore. I'm all for the kids, and Mike Norvell, if it ever came out, which we won't get out of our media, if it ever came out, the truth would be Mike Norvell, he says he's for the kids. Well, then he went to each player and said, you make the best decision for yourself, and I support you. And not we got such great culture here at Georgia, and everybody's going to play, and all this shit. I'm not for that. If we would have lost one of our guys who has a big chance at the NFL, I would feel very bad for them because it is about money. It is about money. Ask ESPN running all the ads. They even used to be back in the day, KB, you could watch the whole Orange Bowl halftime. They ran ads right over the guy singing and stuff. Not I care who the hell it was, New Moonwalk or whatever, but they ran ads right over that. You used to be able to see the whole thing. Not anymore. It's all about the money. That's what it is, and you fans better know it. So, you better know what you're paying for when you pay for it. But I don't blame the players who opted out or who opted in. Florida State showed up. Coach Norvell and staff and all Florida State officials did what they have to do, and that is they put on their corporate jackets. They went in there, they played a football game, and they get to go to the cashier's window and pick up a damn nice check that they need for this program. That's it. That's it. So when anybody out there ever flashes in your face, God, what happened? 63-3. What the hell is that? What happened? They're ignorant. Don't even talk to them. Why would you engage and try to explain everything, which they're not going to buy anyways? Yep. I'm not going to do it. And I'm going to have to do it because I know some of my friends I play ball with, they're going to bring this shit up. But they don't know nothing about it because they don't follow it.
Yeah. And so, like I said, I'm just looking towards next year. And I think what does excite me is that you did just sign a very nice class with Charles Lester, great potential at cornerback, Landon Thomas, top tight end, because that is a position of need, Cam Davis, position of need, running back, a lot of time, high base, Jamari Howard. You're going to Elijah Moore, receiver, Micah Danzy, Jonathan Daniels, offensive tackle. You're bringing in the right type of players now in this last class who are going to potentially they're going to be able to compete. If I was coach, or I'm telling these kids, you better be ready to come in and compete because there's going to be some open spots available. Because and that's not to say guys didn't hustle today, but the talent of this room needs to get better. This team needs to get better. The depth of this room needs to get better. And it did. I said it on signing day. This team got better with this last class. And I absolutely believe it's the best class we've signed since Norvell's been here. But these guys, high star rankings, need to be ready to come in and compete right away. That's the only way this team gets better. These guys come in and are ready to fight for a position and make the guys ahead of them on the depth chart get better as well. That's the only way. Because if a guy thinks he's the incumbent starter on this team and he doesn't have to compete, doesn't have to fight against Charles Lester for a spot or Landon Thomas, at the tight end or Cam Davis at the running back spot, then things become stagnant. But bringing in these elite players at these positions should make this team better as long as they're ready to come in and they come in shape and ready to play. So
I think they're doing that, KB.
I'm not saying they're not. I'm not saying they're not. But this should motivate these kids you just signed to say, come in and make a difference. Come in, let's do it. Let's run it back next year and be healthy, and let's get to the playoffs and meet Georgia again. That's what I would say to them. You come in when you are actually eligible to play with us. Come in and compete so you can be on that field next year against Georgia. That's what I would tell them.
Yeah, I think there is competition in the program. I think that's in there.
I don't think there's enough.
Really? Who do you think's guaranteed jobs? Who
on the offensive line is being competing for an offensive line position right now? Who's pushing Maurice Smith or Darius Washington for a spot? There's not enough depth at these positions. I guess
the other 18 offensive linemen, I hope.
Well, once again, they're not good enough to.
Well, that's
what.
Okay, that's fine. That's what I'm saying. That's an okay comment.
Linebacker, same thing. Not enough depth on that linebacker.
Okay. Oh, I agree. But when you say competition, I see competition as they're not motivating people to compete, or they're giving somebody who has seniority over someone else. I think what you're saying is the talent is not being recruited.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, we can't be out. We can't be out getting a 3-star linebacker someplace. Why are we competing for 3-star linebackers? Every linebacker we should be in should be at least a 4-star. But everybody says, well, they're very hard to evaluate. Well, who the hell isn't hard to evaluate? You know. So, but you can't. You got to go with. You can't just keep bringing in guys that aren't going to play for you. I know.
Or
you know what I mean?
3 years to develop. It's too hard to wait around now because guys will hit the portal.
Well, why does a guy like DJ Lundy leave? Wasn't he? He's not a starter. Is that what he wanted? He's not getting enough reps.
He wasn't playing.
Okay, well then he has a right to leave. I'd leave too, right?
Yeah,
he wasn't playing. So we've got some. They used to say reloading. No, it's really we've got a lot of rebuilding to do. Really. In the next several months, okay, the next several months comes around pretty damn quick, and we'll have shows on that because we're just talking about talent here. But there clearly was a talent difference in this ball game, no doubt about it.
Yeah,
no doubt about it.
Because it wasn't starter on starter, obviously, but you saw with your almost all backups in against an elite team. There's going to be mismatches, but when those backups for Georgia came in the fourth quarter, stuff like that, there was still some discrepancies there. And that's what I'm saying is that if you really want to be great, you need to be able to have depth at all positions, not just a few of them. And that's what's been lacking.
What gets me is there these ignorant, uninformed people out there, and some of them are dropping in on the comments here, ignorant, uninformed, they may even be a troll, and I don't give a damn. Either way, you're ignorant because when you say stuff like Georgia Tech lost to UGA by 8 points, we're talking about a football team here now, Florida State, that had how many guys out?
That? I don't know
what I'm saying
why are you giving a troll attention?
I'm saying is because there's a lot of people who only look at scoreboards. That's it. In America.
But they'll know that and they'll still say it.
In America. They don't know how many guys opted out. They don't even know about that. So what I'm saying is we can't get caught up in this is what I'm saying.
Ignore the idiots. Worry about next season. That's all I'm worried. I don't care about this game. Didn't mean anything. Worry about next season and how we get better and where we need to address the roster changes. And like I said, a lot of positions are getting better. I think defensive backs are going to be great with the guys you brought in. I believe, depending on the court, but there are a lot of spots on this team that need to get better and need to be addressed immediately, whether it's in the portal, especially. And it's been a little bit weird because we haven't heard as much bubbling up like we did last year when you got a lot of big signings very quickly. But as we said earlier this week, we expect a lot more that momentum to pick up, a lot more names to be dropped, and a lot more talent to still drop into the portal as these bowl games now conclude and guys see where they are on the roster. And which guys are going to the NFL, which guys are actually staying on the team, and where they are in the depth. Because like you just saw, teams like Georgia, teams like teams like Alabama, teams like that, when they have got talent, depth on depth, and those guys don't want to sit there. But if they see an open linebacker slot at Florida State where they can come and play, that is where Florida State can fill those gaps now. But you don't want to always be in that position where you have an open slot available. You always have to be constantly trying to fill it. So that's where Florida State can wait and kind of wait in the wings and say, hey, hopefully, this guy will drop out and we can take a 5-star that we didn't recruit, couldn't close on, and bring him in.
I think that's exactly what's going to happen. I think they're waiting for these playoffs to get through these playoffs and then see who on those programs, which are solid programs, obviously, drop out, drop in, because there's going to be a lot of backups on those teams and maybe some stars who want to go out there and test the NIL market. Now, that's one thing that Florida State fans have no idea what's happening is that in the NIL area. And for us to think it's not just NIL, it's about NIL and playing time, okay? Because every player thinks they're going to be going to the NFL where there's how many draftees each year? 325, 350, I don't know the exact number, but it's in the 300s. That's a tough group to crack. So everybody's trying to get reps. If you don't have reps on the field, quality reps on the field, your chances of going to the NFL are zero. Okay? So you can get some really good backup players from these other teams like Georgia, like Alabama, like Michigan, some of these other programs. And if they fit your culture, then you bring them in. The question is, how much do these guys want? That's what it is. I think the NCAA still says we don't advocate or don't allow pay for play. That is so stupid. What a stupid statement by the NCAA to say there's no pay for play. Bullshit. Okay, it's all pay for play now. I don't know what else you would call it. But that I think they're going to wait for that. If Norvell, I don't think Mike Norvell needs to go into the portal and bring in 15 guys, but he needs to bring in 8 to 10. We went through that on one of our programs. I think 8 to 10 guys. Yeah. And they need to be in the office. They need to be in the office starting, what's tomorrow? Is New Year's Eve tomorrow, New Year's the next day. I'd give everybody that time off, okay? Boy, January the 2nd, they better be looking at plugging holes. And they better figure out who they're going to go out and get. That's because 2024, you got, if you win the ACC, you're in. I even heard those announcers saying that shouldn't be. If you just win your conference, you should be in the playoffs. Did you hear that part? That was unbelievable.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying. The narrative is slipping. Like they don't really, the ESPN and this narrative. Like I said, you're not like Florida State. The ACC is only guaranteed one spot, and they probably will only get one spot.
One spot,
and they let that slip on the broadcast. And I basically said that, and they even said it's a shame that conference winners even get that much credit. Like they don't even want the conference winners to get a spot.
I know.
So it's really they're letting the mask slip, and that just puts more emphasis on why Florida State.
I wrote that comment down. I wrote that down. That's why I continued to listen. These guys are unbelievable. They say those rules need to be changed now. That those conference winners, where you automatically get in, that shouldn't be that way. Yeah, and they were all night saying that Georgia should have been in the playoffs. It's not. Jesse Palmer goes, it's not even arguable. They should have been in. Well, they're not in. Okay. But with Florida State 13-0, he wasn't defending that much.
No.
Yeah, it's
pretty. Again, you're going to see some stupid social media stuff. You're going to see some stupid sites that say, "Oh, this is why they didn't get in." Well, yeah. Well, when you realize you're playing with your second, third string, and yeah. So once again, I don't care about it. I usually would be more emotional, but once again, this game really doesn't mean anything to me. I just care about next year and how do we address what we need to do for next year. So. I'm really going to leave it at that. I worry about next year. How do we get better? What are we going to do in the portal now? And how do we move forward? And like I said, the one bright spot for me tonight out of everything, because there wasn't going to be a lot of bright spots, was what I saw in Brock Glenn, and I see the potential there and what he could do for us down the road.
I think it was invaluable experience for a lot of the young players that played. It has to be very disheartening. The score. Especially the score. Was Kirby Smart running it up? I don't think so. I mean, I think they were just gashing things.
Well, he did against TCU last year.
I don't think he's an ugly coach that wants to do that. Some FSU fans are going to disagree with that. I think he was just playing the game. When your backups are in there, you want to have them exercise. You could just run the ball into the middle every play, but then what that does to another football coach, if you're on the other side, if you're Mike Norvell, you don't want that.
Yeah.
You want to play the game. You showed up to play the game, then you're ready to play the game. But I want to say this about our fans that went down there. All fans, whether you went down to the Orange Bowl or you sat at home and watched, we are Florida State fans, period. All of us, okay? And there's going to be a lot of discussion over the next few weeks about everything that's been going on and what we need to do. So, all the fans that went down there, I have to say this, we felt sick about it, unsurprisingly sick about it, but sitting through that had to be a frickin' nightmare, okay? It had to be a nightmare. I went through a nightmare in 1973 when we were 0-11. 0-11. This was my second biggest nightmare, I think, in terms of a score, but in terms of meaning, it's no meaning to me. It's no meaning to me at all. So when somebody throws that up in my face, I am not going to even address it with them.
Yep. And the last thing I'll say is that recruiting matters, and recruiting, we need to continue to recruit in the top 10, hopefully top 5. And like you said, the speed at which those backups and freshmen saw today, they won't see a lot in the ACC. They won't see that level of speed outside of maybe Clemson throughout the 12-game regular season. So once again, I think the development of seeing what Blake Nicholson saw today and Omar Graham and Ashley Barker and what those guys in the line as well, what they saw today, like you said, is invaluable, because you won't be playing against starters like you may next year or 2 years from now see that. But you're not going to see many teams that have that much speed lining up across from you, especially if you're only a freshman and you're going against that. So it doesn't feel good today, but hopefully those are experiences that you have on tape now that you can learn from, develop from, and get better next year when you actually are in a starting role, or 2 years from now when you're in a starting role. And it's a reminder that Georgia, with all their players and backups, is that they have been in a top 6 recruiting class since 2016. Mike Norvell is still building this up from what it was when William Taggart established it demolished it.
Yeah.
And this is our first year, I believe, being in the top 10 since it is the first time he's been in the top 10 in recruiting since he's been here in the last 3 years, or since Willie Taggart took over. So we are trying to rebuild the same way. It takes time, guys. It takes a while. Obviously the circumstances weren't the right way. It wasn't starter on starter. But this season, 13-0 was a culmination of what you could do with great talent, whether it's portal, whether it's high school, but it gets better. If we continue to recruit at that same high level, top 10 classes, elite players coming in from high school, being developed as freshmen, ability to play right away as well, you become what Georgia is. And that's what I think Mike Norvell can do. And that's what the vision has to be. So,
and one of the things too, we're Georgia is an elite football program. There's absolutely no doubt about it, and we're not going to judge them as trash by some of their troll friends in here tonight on the comments, because you got some trollers out there. That's all they do, because they never got out of their mother's basement. All they do is play Madden, on the TV set. They never played a damn sport in their life, and they're a bunch of idiots. So in that regard, what we do now is we take the film, evaluate for player development. Did we see guys that can play for this Florida State football team in 2024? And as you said, KB, who do we need to go out and get? That's the reality of college football today, NFL light, as I call it, and we move forward. This day is over. It was not a surprise that Georgia won the game. It was a little surprising of the score. That's where the disappointment is. It is a bitter taste to take into 2024 and wash your mouth and get better, okay? Because in that regard, we know in reality what happened in this game, whether the announcers talked about it or they didn't talk about it, or whether some stupid troll or other media talk about it. This was reality. It was covered up by the announcers of what the reality of this was, because they were trying to make one team look better than the other because they have contract basis to do that with the ESPN. That's it from my side. I don't feel like we just lost the national championship. I wouldn't have claimed a national championship even if all the other teams lost. We're the only undefeated team. That's what we have. It sucks, but that's the way it is. Player development game. Hopefully Mike got some evaluation done on certain guys. And I think we'll, as you said, we may lose some guys in the portal. Okay? There were guys playing in this game that wanted to show some portal tape. There's some guys in this game who are playing for 2024 to, to be on a Florida State team. All right? And there were some guys trying to increase potential NFL draft status. Braden Fisk, by not playing, was not a surprise. I've been saying that all week on our shows. You know that. And he practiced, which he can do, and he opted out. Was no surprise to me at all.
Yep.
That's it for me.
That's it. So, yeah, I mean, that's going to do it for me. I do love it, though, that other fan bases are obsessed with Florida State, so that does make me happy.
I love that. I love that. And they're just trash. They're just trash. And
No,
we don't see it as reflective of Georgia fans. True fans.
No, I'm not even talking about
Georgia.
Georgia. Georgia fans don't care because they know what they are. It's other teams trying to cope because they don't understand where they line up. So I'm worried about Florida State. I don't worry about other teams' fan bases or their programs like other programs do and other fans do. But
okay, let me ask you this: Who do you think is going to win it all? Who's going to win it all?
Russell, you're just spamming the chat. I'm putting you in timeout. You're annoying. I really don't. I'm not watching the game, so I don't really care.
You're not watching the games because of ESPN?
Yeah, I don't care. Okay. I mean, this was. Okay. I mean, I watched one bowl game. That was Miami losing in the fourth quarter. That's the only bowl game I've watched this year. So I hope I don't. These games don't matter really. I mean, national championship.
Well, they do matter. They do matter because somebody's gonna win a national championship, so they do matter.
Well, I mean, Michigan got in, and they have a cheating scandal, so I mean, it really doesn't matter. Whatever happens. Someone's gonna win the national championship. That's great. Florida State's not in it, so why do I care? It doesn't affect me. I really don't care. Our season's done. Our season ended when we beat Louisville. That's when our season ended. So I'm worried about next year. I'm worried about how do we get better.
Exactly.
How do we get better? Exactly. How do we beat Georgia Tech and Ireland? That's what I care about.
Here's what I care about. I hope Michigan loses because they do have an ongoing cheating scandal. There's more to come on that. Their coach wasn't even there for 6 games, which is very interesting. What an image that is. And I hope Alabama loses because ESPN wanted them in. It's Saban. They hope Saban wins again. That's what it's about. I hope they both lose.
Yep. Yeah. So you'll have to inform me because I definitely won't be watching.
Okay.
But so that's going to do it. Once again, a couple of bright spots for Florida State in terms of the quarterback position, but I think we
Mastromanos had a great game, and Fitz had a great game. He kicked the field goal.
But we know where we need to get better. Hopefully, we'll get some news on the next quarterback, whether it's DJ or Ward. And then we build from there, whether it's we're going to bring in this receiver, this kid from Toledo at running back, and this edge rusher from Purdue that's coming through, visiting Florida State. So once again, we'll start to see the momentum from the portal come through. And I believe Mike has a plan, but I want actions, not words. I don't want trust Mike. I want actions from Mike and to see how he's going to address some of these some of the holes we've seen on the season, how we can get better next year. So that's going to do it. Once again, that's going to do it. So we'll see you guys. We'll probably do a show to talk about kind of portal updates and where that's going and follow-up news there.
Well, I expect the next show will be about the quarterback signer, the veteran coming in. There'll be a veteran quarterback signed, I believe, in the next 7 to 10 days. I really believe it. I don't think they can. When is the championship game? Like the 21st?
I really don't. I don't know.
Or it may be sooner than that. I think they need to sign a quarterback right away because it's starting to reflect on other portal guys coming in.
It's obvious. Well, Ohio State's going to be looking for a quarterback too. So,
Yeah.
So yeah, we got to get one. So, and then Char, yeah, we may get into some basketball because that's a shit show right now. And I mean, they got to get
And
rid
we
of.
told you
Leonard
that
Hamilton.
was a
They
shit
got to
show.
get rid of Leonard Hamilton. So,
right.
that's imploding as we speak with that lost Linscomb or.
Well, those are the
terrible.
big three, KB. Those are the big three. We got Coach Hamilton needs to retire or resign. We got to get out of the ACC, and we got to rebuild this football team to make the playoffs in 2024. That's it.
Absolutely. So, yeah, we'll keep you posted. If you guys see any news and notes on that, do it and let us know, and we'll do our show. And for some of you out there, I hope your day gets better because some of you guys have some awful lives. So please get better. See a doctor if you need to. And but everyone else out there,
trolls out there, yeah.
Oh, that's who I was talking to.
Yeah.
Everyone out there, we'll see you soon. FSU
And
fans, go Noles.
by the way, how much are we sending to the Leon County Humane Society? I think it's $125 thanks to our viewers out there and my matching dollar for dollar.
140.
And I said I'd put we said we'd put $5 per point Florida State put up. I was hoping they'd put up a hell of a lot more points, but that's another $15 we're adding to that pot. But always go out to wherever your nearest local animal shelter is, and please give them a donation, either of money or please go buy some big bags of dog food and take it over there. That's more important than anything else, more important than this game, more important than the score.
Yep. Well said. So that 140 will be donated, and you'll post that on social. So we'll get that out there as soon as we can. We'll post that. So thank you all again who donated on earlier the show when we maxed those super chats. So thank you all again for that and supporting that great cause in Leon County Humane Society. And the old man will post that donation in the coming days. So thank you all again. We'll see you next week. Have a great rest of your weekend. Get help if you need it. But for the rest of you, enjoy a drink, enjoy your family, enjoy your pets. And we will see you maybe next week. We'll let you know what the next show looks like. Have a great one, guys, and take care. Go FSU. Had a great season, and we will see you for what's next. Take care.
We're still on Conquer. We never give up.